On your way over here, if you were the driver, did you speed? Did you stop at every stop sign? Did you make sure that every signal you followed? Did you turn that turn signal on every time? Did anyone fail to do that? Show of hands. Okay, those that are raising your hands, if you would for me, at the conclusion of my presentation, we'll step out into the lobby area and we'll take care of those concerns. Believe it or not, I actually wanted to be a school teacher. That was my big dream. I just loved the idea of having a classroom and being able to engage with little minds and being able to teach our next generations coming up. So that was going through school, that's what I was focused on doing. I kind of took a turn somewhere. The summer after I graduated high school, I went and I lived with my grandparents, and they lived in a resort community in Bethany Beach, Delaware. I know, rough deal for an 18-year-old. And while living there, I worked for the local police department, and my job was going around and writing parking tickets. I apologize if you got any of those parking tickets. People are not very happy about getting a $10 parking ticket either while they're on vacation, just FYI. But while doing that, I had the opportunity to see how police officers interacted with their communities. I even had the chance to ride with officers and go to different calls and kind of sit back and watch and see how they interacted with their communities. They were out and about. No 2 days looked the same. They weren't just stuck in an office, and it spoke to me. And I tell you what, my path changed right there. When I went back to school, I changed my major, and I continued to live with my grandparents at the beach. I know, it was rough. I went to school. I was working on my bachelor's degree. I received my associate's. I was working on my bachelor's degree in criminal justice. And while I was doing that, my dad called and let me know about a hiring opportunity with the Hagerstown Police Department. And I don't know if you know anything about going for a job in law enforcement, but at the time it was extremely competitive and it's very long and drawn out. There's a lot to the process. And I thought in my mind, you know what, this is a great learning opportunity. Don't think I'll get that. You know, no big deal. I'll fill out the application. I'll go through the testing process. I'll use it as a learning experience because I'm still going to school and I'm still finishing up my education, so no big deal. I came back to Hagerstown. I took the test. I passed. And then they had me come back again. I took the physical fitness test. I passed. Then I had the interviews, and they must have liked me because they asked me to come back for some more. I had additional interviews, and then I got to the background section of the hiring process, and you get to spill all your secrets and tell them about all the things that you've done wrong. That one time as a kid when you took a piece of gum from the machine or that you weren't supposed to. But going through and doing all that, I kept thinking, okay, you know, at some point they're not going to ask me back. Because when I took the initial test, there was hundreds of people there taking that. Well, wouldn't you know, joke's on me. 3 of us got hired that year. So in December, right before Christmas, I found myself packing up my belongings and getting ready to move from the nice little beach resort area back home to Hagerstown. I started the academy that January, and that just began the foundation of my law enforcement career. And as you hear me talk about what I've gone through and done through my career, I've built my law enforcement house. You need that foundation that you build, and each training, each step you take, each department you go to just builds another level on your house. And your law enforcement house can look very different than someone else's. So I'm just going to tell you what my house looks like. So I went through, graduated the academy, and I worked for the Hagerstown Police Department for about 3.5 years. That time there really laid that foundation that I needed. That taught me how to interact with people when I went to calls, how vitally important being able to relate to your community was, how things can change in an instant, and how important it is to have those relationships with your fellow officers when you're out in your responding to calls for service. So after working for the Hagerstown Police Department, I then applied for the Washington County Sheriff's Office. I also, in that time frame, got married and had a baby. I was a little busy. So moving over to the Sheriff's Office, I started out on patrol, which is going to be where you respond to calls for service. And I learned the big difference between going from those two separate agencies. Hagerstown's city-based. It takes you 5 minutes to get anywhere in Hagerstown. I don't want to hear different, and that's following the laws. It takes about 5 minutes. When you go to a more rural area or a larger area, being the county, there's 428 square miles that we have to cover. So time's a little different, and a lot of those times that I would go out and respond to calls, I was by myself. So I had to really rely on that ability to read a situation and communicate with people and understand what they were going through, and sometimes talk them into doing things that they really didn't want to do, but I didn't want to see something go bad. So that, going from there, was another part of my house I started building, learning that communication and how important that is being there. Then an opportunity came open to be a school resource officer. And I thought, well, this would be interesting. I like kids. I wanted to be a teacher, if you remember I said that. It's like, it's funny how things kind of line up a little bit. So I was lucky enough to be selected for that position, and I went out, and I was a school resource officer for about 3.5 years as well. And I'll tell you what, that position changed my perspective on community relations and really how we bridge those gaps between ourselves and those that we serve. When you're out at the schools, it's not always that you're not there because there's always an issue. The kids will come up, hey, how's your day going? How's things at home? How's things at school? You develop relationships. You're there for good. It's not all bad. I'm not responding because you're having the worst day of your life or because there's an issue. There's a lot of positive interactions that come out of that as well. And it was good for my soul. I'm hoping it was good for theirs too. But while being out at the school, the position with community relations and crime prevention became open. And I thought, you know what? I really liked being a school resource officer, and I feel it drawing me this way. I think I really want that position. And I put in for it, and I was selected. And the neat thing about community relations and crime prevention is you're running a lot of the programming that goes through the agency. So our Shop with the Sheriff program, our Trunk or Treat, our community shred event, all the things that we go out there, our presentations on educating our community on how to lessen their chances of being a crime victim. That's all the things that run through community relations and crime prevention. So I thought, yes, this is what I want to do. I'm excited. So I'm getting used to my new position. I'm learning the presentations and what I need to do. And then one of the higher ups comes to me and says, hey, we don't have a public information officer. And I thought, well, what's a public information officer? He said, we need someone to talk to the media. Oh. I don't know if you guys feel the same way about public speaking as what I do. Funny story here, that's one of my top fears. So right now the nerves are nerving. But we get through it. And I thought for a minute, like, oh, I don't know about that. But then you also have to look at the good that you can do with it. I can get the message out there. I can let the community know what's going on, safety information. There's a lot of positives that come through it, but it was pushing me to places that I was not comfortable. So they gave me that as well. And I was able to take those positions and look at how I can go and make an impact in my community. And why is it important with making an impact? Making that impact, it doesn't have to be the loud stuff. You don't have to wear a badge. You don't have to come up onto a stage. You don't have to give a TED talk. You can go through and you can find those little ways of being able to make those changes out in your community. It's being that person that steps up when no one else does and saying, hey, I'll help, I volunteer. Bringing the little gifts that you have forward to, whether it's through your job or whether it's through your personal life and finding your strengths and doing that. Those are things that we do to bring forward to make those impacts within our community. And I talked a little bit before about our Shop with a Sheriff program that we do, and that's the one that I really use a lot as an example of how I hope that I'm making an impact out in our community. Every December, we take children shopping, holiday shopping. And I'll tell you what, it's a great time. I never have trouble getting volunteers out of the deputies to sign up to go shopping with the kids. But you don't have to be the face with that. My role with that program is not being the, hey, look at me, look what I did. Mine is going through doing the logistical side of it, helping with the fundraising, making sure that all the plans are laid out, everyone knows where they need to be, the children are selected, and the night runs smooth. And that's where I'm making my impact, because I'm finding where my strengths are, those little minor details going through and bringing it to the table for those kids. So why does that matter? We now live in a world where it has become so easy to just not care. I know you've seen it. Crisis after crisis, burnout, division, people just rolling by those things. And that's not going to change our communities. That's not going to change them for the better, and that's what we need to do. What's going to cause that change is someone like me or someone like you stepping up and saying, you know what? I got this, and this is how I'm going to help make those changes. So think, are you the organizer? Are you the planner? I really need a fundraiser if anyone's not, busy. But what are your strengths that you can bring to the table to either start on your own or look for an organization that is already out there doing good work, and you can help them get out and do more into the community? So where can you bring that forward? So look local, look at where you live, look around, look where your feet are, and see what's available for you to do that. So my challenge to you tonight, identify those strengths that you have. How can they help make a difference in your community? And step up and use it. Because you might have someone later down the road saying, I don't know who put that together, but that was one of the best nights of my life, or that was the best program I was ever involved in, or that was the best experience I ever had. So, thank you.